Welcome back to the BTS Happy Hour podcast. I'm your host, Andrea. So there's a lot to catch up on since I was last able to record. On September 8th, BTS posted to Weverse Live a Chuseok greeting, and I was able to watch this on YouTube. I wanted to watch on Weverse, but they still have not posted subtitles, so I don't know what the issue is because they'd started adding subtitles to the Weverse Lives, and I was like, okay, now they're on track with all that. And for some reason, this one video still doesn't have subtitles, and it's almost 2 weeks later. So, I mean, they need to be a little more consistent, but it's good that they are improving somewhat on these Weverse Lives for us international fans. I went to watch it on YouTube, and it was nice to see them all together, and they were wearing their handboks, and they were talking about traveling for Chuseok to family members' houses when they were younger, and they were talking about, I don't know if it was like a flight or a train that they were talking about that gets crowded during this holiday time. So they mentioned that, and I guess everybody's traveling to like the same parts of Korea is what I gathered from that part of the conversation. And Jin talked about how he was bringing everybody fruit from all of his different uncles' farms. So we remember all of that happening. Everybody got some grapes and stuff. And they discussed their favorite Chuseok foods like dried persimmon and meat pancakes and radish soup with beef and raw skate. So sounded very interesting cuisine that they have for this holiday. So it's nice to hear, some of the information about their traditional, their customs during this holiday. Also, another custom is that adults give money to the younger family members, and it's just funny because BTS, they're kind of considered the adults now, although sometimes it sounds like they still get money from the older adults, but they are also of the age that they should be giving money to the younger people. So I guess there's a lot of like money handed off during this holiday. And Jungkook is also seems very sleepy. I don't know if they filmed this at a time where he's real busy with his chapter 2 activities, but he seemed very tired. So, I mean, I'm sure their schedules are like packed full, like of all these individual things. But it was nice to see them all together, every once in a while. And it sounds like they all get together too offline. Like I think V was saying in his Vogue Korea interview how they were all at Suga's house one time, listening to some of their new songs that they have for their solo projects. And so, yeah, that's what I got from the Chuseok video. I only was able to watch half of it because the YouTubers that claim to have put up subtitles on this video are fraudulent, and none of them had subtitles like all the way through the video. So I'm gonna have to still just wait for the Weverse Live to see the rest of it and see what they said. So kind of frustrating. Hopefully the Weverse Live will get updated at some point, because I hate getting too far behind on these videos. I like to try to be caught up when possible with all the lives and Run BTS, although I'm totally behind on Run BTS. Speaking of Weverse Lives, Jungkook went live on his birthday on September 1st, and as usual, he did a lot of singing and a lot of, talking with ARMY, and I think it's great that we can rely on BTS members to go live on their birthdays, so at least we can see annually how they celebrate, and occasionally there'll be another member there. I do, in a way, kind of miss some of the older videos where, they'd celebrate a birthday and it was everybody together in a practice room or something like that. So maybe, at some point later on after the after the break, there will be times where, those kind of birthdays happen again, where everybody's together and, one member brings in a cake, just like old times. So, but I think it's great that they are checking in on Weverse lives every once in a while, even in this chapter 2 time. And so on this one, it was not only Jungkook's birthday, but he had a visit from Jin, and who brought by, the grapes from one of his uncle's farms. And I don't know if he brought the cake or he was just happened to be there while the cake was there. But we got to see that, and we got to see part of Jungkook's house. People had noticed that some of the furniture in Jungkook's Weverse lives, because the last few have been from his house that he's done, that the furniture looked very familiar. And so people kind of pieced it together and realized that a lot of the old dorm furniture from the shared dorm that they all lived in before, that furniture has been adopted by Jungkook. And so that's something that he does a lot. He doesn't like to waste anything. And probably it was furniture that was like no one else really wanted. And he was like, well, whatever, I have a house that could use some furniture. I'll just use it myself. And it's always Jungkook who takes home like free stuff from some of the different shoots and sets that they have. Like the time that, what was it, Island, the Enhypen reality show, when they were guests there, he took some food from the set home. And the Run BTS cooking episode, he took home like the pots that no one wanted. I guess we're just gonna like go to waste or go back to the prop room or whatever. I love that he has that mindset of, well, no one's gonna use it and I can use it myself. Like, why waste anything? Why buy something all new when there's a perfectly good pot right here? So I think it's great that he keeps that mindset even as a very rich person. And RM also went live on his birthday, so this was September 12th. And we also got to see parts of his house, and it was pretty much exactly as BTS members had described. If you remember from their Festa meal, they said that his house was like an art museum, and that is definitely what it looked like. You could see different like sculptures and paintings, and it looked very austere. Like there wasn't any like junk lying around. So it's very, very tidy and almost sterile, kind of like an art gallery. But it was exactly as they said. So we got a glimpse into that. And what was funny about his Weverse Live was that J-Hope was in the chat and he kept commenting. He was like trying to get Arm's attention. He was like anytime Army is like, hi, I'm here, say hi, like they try to get the BTS member to reply back to them or answer their question. So it was really funny to see he was trying to get RM to answer him or notice his comments, and eventually he did. And I think he was going to be on a phone call with J-Hope at some point. So it was pretty funny to see that happen in real time. And yeah, I didn't even know that was a new feature either. The fact that BTS members could be in the chat and you can clearly see it's them because they have like a special designation. You could tell that it's J-Hope, or you could tell like later on V was in Jimin's chat. And so they make that must be a new feature, or I don't know, maybe that's never happened before. I don't know, and so now we're only just seeing it, but I think that was pretty cool because then their comments stand out, and that's what everybody wants to see anyway. Like we don't care about seeing each other's comments on the chat, so that makes sense. But with both of Jungkook and RM's Weverse lives, they got disconnected and then they had to like restart it. So I hope that the IT people at Weverse Live are working on improving the stability of it, because it seems like it crashes every time. So they need to work on that, or get more servers or whatever it is. And then they also need to keep working on putting the subtitles on there in a timely manner. These lives had it. I don't know how soon I checked, but they did have it within kind of a reasonable amount of time. So congrats on that. Also during this time, Jin had gone to Los Angeles on September 12th, and we're not sure what exactly he did there. We're all just assuming he's meeting with music producers and doing things related to his solo projects that are happening down the road. So hopefully we'll hear more about that at some point. And while he was in LA, he went on Weverse Live himself on the 12th. I think it was very soon after RM's live, because I remember him mentioning that it was his RM's birthday. On Jin's Weverse Live, he was basically playing his video game for 3 hours, and it was very entertaining and funny to see all of his reactions to things. And I just remember watching Twitter, and people were like, I had to turn the volume down really quick because like a lot of the sounds he was making, it was like moans and groans. It sounded like a little bit sexual. Like if you didn't know what was being watched, like if you were in the next room or something, it might sound like something else. But it's just Jin reacting to different things happening in the video game. So it was pretty funny, and it was good to see Jin on live as well. And he came back from LA September 16th. And then RM also went to LA for a couple of days. I have written here he went September 14th. Not for very long. It looks like he went to check out some art galleries, possibly other things while he was there. But yeah, they're doing a lot of traveling lately. And I guess they got to do it now because they got to start getting ready for the Busan concert and rehearsals for that. I'm sure that would take up a lot of their time. So it's like, okay, if you want to like quickly visit somewhere, now's a good time, end of September, middle of September, before we start the hardcore, dance rehearsals for the concert. So yeah, maybe that's why all of this seems to be happening at the same time. And RM also had his feature came out. He was a guest on a song called Sexy Nukim, and I watched the video. I honestly have no idea what this video is about. It seemed very artistic. It's kind of like over my head, but it did remind me of like earlier Lady Gaga videos where it's just a lot of like odd situations happening, or just like weird or uncomfortable kind of sets. But I respect whatever they're doing, and I'm sure this is like something that I think, what is it, Balming Tiger is the name of this group. I'm sure their fans are like, they love it and totally get what's going on. So I thought that was great. And then RM's part in the MV, he kind of like rolls in on a bicycle, and I think it's just like such a running joke about how he doesn't have a car and he gets everywhere with a bicycle. And I just think that he has such a good humor about all that. And I saw in the MV shooting sketch, he said, okay, this year I vow I'm going to get my driver's license. He's like, I have to stop the teasing once and for all. But yeah, I think, when that happens, that'll be at the start of a new era. So, but his part in this video, not exactly sure what happened, but he was looking cool with a bicycle, and he had some like really good lyrics. And he also used a bicycle in his entirety photo shoot. So I think maybe this will be like the last of the like bicycle as a theme photo shoots or videos. He's definitely used it a lot lately. But yeah, it was funny here in the video because he's like cruising around at a gas station. So I don't know why would you have a bicycle but then be at the gas station? we just heard the other day that J-Hope is going to be a feature on a Crush song called Rush Hour, which will be released on September 22nd. And Crush, I believe, is a group that's under P Nation. So that explains why. I mean, I thought that he was just friends with P Nation folks, but that explains why they were at his listening party for Jack in the Box. So clearly, this was already in the works as well, and that's great that that all these collabs are coming out. So Jungkook was spotted at IU's concert on September 17th, and apparently IU has started her tour, or I don't know how many concerts it's going to be, but she hasn't performed in 3 years, so this must be her first series of concerts since before the pandemic, and it's taking place at the Olympic Stadium in Seoul. So that's pretty amazing for her because, that's a very big stadium, so you need to have a lot of fans if you're going to sell out multiple dates at this stadium. And so we hear that Jungkook, we already know he's a big fan of IU. He was seen at day one of the concert. So I think that's great that he's getting out there and watching concerts, because we've seen all the other members. They've been attending concerts as well. And yeah, I mean, supporting fellow Korean performers, legends supporting legends. You love to see it. And this picture that I see, whoever this fan is that spotted Jungkook, they seem to be like right next to him. So must be a coincidence that they're near where he was standing, or they're seated near him for this concert. But that's how we knew about it. I don't think Jungkook himself has posted about this yet. But looks like a pretty fun concert. And IU, you got to be a certain level to perform at such a big stadium. I've heard her compared to Taylor Swift in a way, like not so much artistically, but like as far as like A-list level, and that does seem pretty accurate. Because BTS is performing stadiums, IU is performing stadiums, so that definitely seems like that's the level she's on. And Jungkook, he was also seen at day 2 of her concert. So Jungkook here, he's like, I don't know what the IU fans are called, but he's being like ARMY is with BTS. It's like, let me get tickets to multiple nights and like get different seats and, get barricade one time and, floor or other seats for the other dates. So he's being like ARMY right now and like, let me see multiple days of a concert because why not? So I think that's great. And it says here that he went to day 2 with J-Hope. So that's great. He went with a friend instead of just like a manager or something. I think that always makes it more fun, as if you're at a concert with friends. And it looks like she's got some guest performers. She had Jay Park show up, and fans are saying that this was a great concert. Like, she's the queen of K-pop. And yeah, so he was there with J-Hope on day 2, and I think he even brought a light stick, one of the IU signature light stick. I don't know what that looks like, but apparently he was seen with it and with a little sign cheering her on. And the fact that J-Hope was there, I think, remember that J-Hope promoted his solo album on her show, and so I'm sure they have like a good relationship, and I'm sure J-Hope was already a fan of IU anyway, so it makes sense that he was there too. So it sounds like it was a good time. And oh wow, looks like IU had like seat cushions for like everybody in the stadium. It's like, wow, that must have taken forever to make those and distribute them to everybody in there, but that's a pretty cool souvenir to have. Like, you can always use a seat cushion. So hopefully we will see, maybe when IU's done with her couple of days performing, if there was like some backstage photos, like did Jungkook and J-Hope take some pictures with her, because, that often happens, like when it's like the bigger celebrities and then they know the person, they'll go backstage and, hang out after the show. So we'll see if that gets released. I'm sure we'll see on somebody's Instagram if they did take some pictures. And apparently the IU concert is the hot ticket this week, because there's another article here that's talking about all the Korean celebrities who went to the Golden Hour concerts. So everybody seemed pretty hyped to go see IU. Members of Twice were there. Nayeon, Jio, and Changyang went to her concert. And let's see, who else do I recognize here? TXT went. Okay, there's some actresses from K-dramas who I don't really know, but I'm sure they're famous. And the boys, someone from ATEEZ was there. Yeah, a lot of people are posting to their Instagram stories or Twitter that they were there. One girl from Stacy's pretty underrated. I don't know if you guys have tried to listen to them, but they have some pretty good songs. They have pretty good choreo. I don't know who their person is, but they do a really good job with their choreo. Yeah, there's just a long list of celebrities who went to the IU show. So looks like it was a good time. Glad to hear that Jungkook had a good time. I'm assuming he did. I don't think he said anything, but, he looked like he was having fun in the random photos that I've seen of it. One thing that was interesting about IU's concert is that she says that she will be graduating 2 of her most iconic songs. So that's going to be Palette and Good Day. And basically she's saying she's not going to be singing those songs anytime soon. So I think that's very interesting. I don't know if she feels like she's past that point and they were only appropriate for like a certain time in her career and she feels like she's outgrown them. But, it's very interesting. She says she's graduated them, so maybe she doesn't want people to just assume they will be sung at her next concert so that they don't have the expectations. But I was trying to think, were there any songs that BTS has graduated that I shouldn't expect to hear anytime soon? But, there were songs that I thought I wouldn't get to hear, but I thought because, okay, that was the previous era, they probably won't sing it again very soon. It'll be like some later time, or maybe never, or maybe I'll have to just look at an old video or an old music show performance or something if I want to see a live version of that. But, it was like Spring Day was like that, and Blood, Sweat, and Tears was like that. But then they have brought those back. Like, they didn't sing them for a couple years, but then they did sing them for Permission to Dance concerts. So yeah, like, I don't think BTS like officially graduated any songs. They do take some out of circulation for a little bit, just so you hear some of their newer songs, or they have some different ones in the rotation. Because, Permission to Dance concerts, they didn't do Go Go or Anpan Man. Like, those 2 are like some of my favorite ones. So, but they're probably going to bring that back at some point, like the next series of concerts they do. But I just thought that was a very interesting idea that IU decided to graduate these 2 songs, and I'm sure she has her own reasons for that. And so also happening recently, Jimin went live on Weverse on September 18th, and the most notable thing that happened there, he was talking about his moon tattoo on his back, and he said that it was actually inspired by fan art. Like, he had the one moon, and then he saw some fan art going around, which V had showed to him, and he was like, oh, that looks really cool, let me do that. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. Like, someone might draw something and a BTS member might see it and actually do it. This is just going to encourage a lot more fan art, probably. And because they're getting ideas from that. They're seeing what ARMY is putting out there, and people are very creative. So if you do something cool, you may as well put it out there and put it on Twitter, put it on Weverse, and they might actually see it. So that's crazy. And so Jimin said that he will try to go live again next time with V and Jungkook or whoever's around. He'll try to have multiple people on. So that'll be cool. Also on September 19th, we saw V's Vogue Korea cover an article that was released, and he had some really great pictures. These were taken in New York. He went on a trip just to do that. As we know, this was like a couple weeks ago, and he had a very nice interview. I just thought it was like very interesting how he answered some of these questions. He seems like such a poet almost, or just the way he responds to things. It's like he seems so wise. Like they were asking him, what's your style? What catches your eye these days? And he just has like very well thought out answers. The notable things from this interview, they asked him about his love of jazz and is he going to incorporate jazz in any of his solo projects. And right now he says he likes jazz, but for now he hasn't tried to actually sing it or create a song that incorporates jazz. So he hasn't done it yet, but it sounds like he is interested in it. He's inspired by it, but it's not necessarily going to be in a song anytime soon. They asked him, what is the secret behind your ability to maintain your composure? And I'm not sure what they're asking with that. I guess just the fact that, BTS is mentioned in all sorts of big news stories, like people are putting out rumors about them or saying something bad, or, speaking about enlistment when they shouldn't. And I guess they're asking, like, how do you guys handle all of this? And he says, I may look calm, but I don't feel calm all the time. I just pretend to be. I try to think clearly and hard in those moments so that I can act with confidence that the decisions I make are the best for the situation, even if they may not be ideal. There's a feeling of responsibility in whatever I do, but I don't regret what I've done. I want to be a good person for those who love me. Our army, BTS members, family, and friends keep me happy and healthy even when I'm hurt and struggling. Okay, so I guess he's saying it's like very important that he projects the image that he's got it all together, but he's trying to just do the best he can and not show that any of these negative things that are happening in the media are affecting him. He might be referring to like the dating rumors and things like that are out there that he doesn't want to comment on, but he just wants to look like, I'm V, I'm doing my own thing, I'm working on my projects, and the important thing is that he is on track with everything, and it only matters like, family, friends, BTS members, and army. So I think that's pretty solid foundation of support. Like, you want to know that you can rely on certain people, and I think they have a good awareness of who can be relied on and who you shouldn't let their words affect you. So I mean, I'm sure like the media, it's like they're saying all sorts of things, but he knows, like, don't pay too much attention to that because that's not important. And they also asked him about how he has initiated contact with other artists, and do you find these new encounters energizing? And he says, I cherish human connection. I'm a people person, and I truly enjoy working with everybody I cross professional paths with, including artists, directors, writers, and journalists like you. In the past, I used to be more reserved because I had been hurt by people who treated me simply as a valuable asset to know and not as a friend. But I still like people. It is thanks to the wonderful people in my life that I am who I am now. So I think that's very interesting. Like, he has been burned by people, and I'm sure that happens to everybody who's famous. Like, you trust the wrong people and then they like stab you in the back, or they leak stuff about you. But it's good that he still wants to be social. He still wants to talk to whoever he wants to talk to, and he just knows, that's a risk, but I'll have to deal with it just to find out who the real people are, So I think he's got a very healthy attitude about all that. And they asked him, as a celebrity, you must be familiar with the public having a lot of different conceptions and images about you. Do you ever wonder who the real V is? And he says, V is just one of myself and one of many personas that I have. I was like, okay, that's a very mysterious answer. So I think that's as much as you can say. I think everybody has like different sides that they show to different people, and V is the persona that he has for ARMY, and it's not necessarily like, oh, we don't know the real V, or we don't know the real Kim Tae-young. It's just that this is what is best for ARMY to know. Like they only need to know certain things, and that's the persona that he has for that. Or maybe not even just for ARMY, just like the public V. And he also mentioned in this interview about how all the BTS members are supporting each other in their solo careers. They're meeting up, at each other's houses. And I think we assume they're doing that they're all still maintaining contact. It's not just like, 7 guys doing separate things, but they're all supporting each other and, listening to each other's music. So that's great. Hopefully we'll see some like Instagram photos or stories about some of these encounters at some point. And they asked him, you once said being happy means completely worry-free and in the moment. Have you had such moments? And he says, such moments do occur, but only fleetingly. If life were just a continuation of only happy moments, wouldn't that be boring? When you have something sweet, you want to have it with something bitter or salty. I think that's life. So, yeah, life is not just going to be continuously amazing. It's going to have some highs and lows. And I think that's a very good attitude, because if you expect everything to go amazing all the time, you're going to be disappointed, or you're going to be upset about it. And it sounds like he expects there to be difficult times or tough times. And when you know what to expect, then it's easier to deal with. So I think he showed a lot of maturity in this interview. It wasn't just like, oh, awesome pictures of V, but, he had some very good things to say. So you should definitely check it out. So there's a story here that says V was invited to Blackpink's private listening party for Born Pink. So as you know, Blackpink released their new album on September 14th. And supposedly they had a private listening party for the album at a private venue in the Songsu district of Seoul. And the private listening party was a place for those invited by Blackpink, including actors, singers, and celebrities, to listen to Blackpink's new album ahead of the release. With extremely tight security, they even had security control access by not allowing managers to enter. One of the attendees was reportedly V from BTS. So this story's out there. I don't know if I necessarily believe it, because I just feel like one outlet said that this happened, and I haven't seen any pictures. I haven't seen any other articles. It's just like 2 outlets that have basically the same exact information. So I don't know if V actually went to this party. I have not seen a photo, but nevertheless, JTBC reports that this is the first time V and Jennie have hung out with each other in a public setting. Even though the party was crowded, V kept his distance. However, they acted naturally in front of everybody at the party and enjoyed the event together. JTBC attempted to ask both YG and HYBE about the event, but one agency, I'm assuming HYBE, stated that they were not aware of the party. So I think like how they worded these things was just very weird, and it sounds kind of fake. I mean, maybe he went, but then why would there not be any photos of this? Like, what's the point of the Blackpink listening party being super top secret? Because the purpose of this party was to listen to the album. It wasn't to keep V and Jennie top secret, Like, why aren't there any photos or Instagram stories about V being at this party? Like, you can't control everybody. If a bunch of celebrities were at this party and V and Jennie were both there, I would feel like there would be photos out there circulating, and I haven't seen even one. So I have no idea what happened here, and I don't know if I trust JTBC. And if I recall, aren't they the ones that tried to break into Hybe and get footage from somewhere? Or I don't know if you guys remember that old story, but I think that was them. They tried to break into somewhere, into a Hybe building, and get some exclusive footage or something. So this might be totally not a story, but I thought I'd mention that it was reported and what were my thoughts on that. So I have no idea if this happened, but I guess there was a party. There was a listening party. And the reason that story about V possibly going to Blackpink's album launch party was relevant was because what did it mean as far as the dating rumors that are still going around? And it's like, yes, that story is still circulating. It's not really over because, that leaker, even though they said they wouldn't release any more photos, there's still some coming out. So the latest development with this is that some more pictures were released, and these are showing V and Jennie supposedly on their Jeju Island trip. And at this point, I do not believe any of the leaked pictures are genuine anymore, because I saw these supposedly new Jeju Island pictures and my skepticism level just went up to 100, because this guy in the pictures does not look like V. I mean, he does kind of. Okay, he's got the hair, he's tall, he looks like what V kind of looks like with a mask and a hat on. But I feel like when you're ARMY, you get used to seeing a million photos of BTS members. You can almost, it's like you're compiling a profile of their faces and bodies in your mind, the same way that facial recognition software works. It's like we've seen so many pictures of BTS members that we can recognize them from just a corner of a photo, or a blurry, not high quality photo, and still know that it's them. But in these new photos, my brain is not seeing V in them. So to me, it doesn't look like V. You can see the photos. They're on Twitter or they're on the All Kpop article, but it shows them at Jeju Island. You can barely see their faces. It does look like Jennie. I don't know if she actually went there or if they have photoshopped her into there, but those are definitely Jennie photos. I just does not look like V to me. It's a guy wearing a mask and a hat in every single picture. And if V and Jennie are having a good time on Jeju Island, just chilling and taking pictures of each other, then why would they keep their masks on? That doesn't even make sense. If it's just them, they're in some remote area, why would they take pictures with their masks and everything on? Their face is covered. It doesn't make any sense. And what clued me in to that this is not being V is that the guy's legs, he's wearing shorts, the guy's legs are have a lot of veins. They have a lot of hair on his legs. He kind of seems like an older guy. And if you've seen V wear shorts, and we've seen him wear shorts because on In the Soup or Run BTS or various things, we've seen what his legs look like. He doesn't have hairy legs. He doesn't have protruding veins on his legs. He has very smooth skin. It's very even complexion, and you can actually see in the Vogue Korea pictures, V has very smooth looking legs, and they look absolutely nothing like the guy's legs in these new pictures from Jeju Island. So that tells me that if these photos are questionable, then all the past ones that are supposedly leaked photos, those are all questionable. I can't trust any of these. The leakers are fraud. I don't believe any of this anymore. And I saw later that the netizens, they tracked down a guy on Instagram who is the guy that looks like V. It's the same person that's in these photos. And that guy had absolutely nothing to do with this whole operation with the leaker. It's just a guy who went to Jeju Island and was on his vacation at some point, and the leaker stole his photos. So that basically confirmed it for me. It's like, okay, now we know the real source of some of these photos, which calls into question all of them pretty much. So I hope we don't hear any more about this story, because I don't think it's worth even people covering in the media. And I just think the whole timing of it with a Blackpink album coming out, it just seems very much like a publicity stunt and something that was perpetuated by YG to help with Blackpink's sales and help get the buzz out there. So I just think this is very, very sketchy. And there was also some footage, supposedly, of Jennie and V in the waiting room, where V was waiting to get his hair done. And this video, it didn't tell you anything, basically. It cropped, it didn't show Jennie at all, and it has no audio in it, so you don't know what anyone's saying or who's in the room. So I think that didn't prove anything. And in fact, it looks even more suspicious, because if you had some real footage of Jennie in this waiting room, why is there no video with her talking or them in the same shot of a video? Like, all we've seen is a photo that they're in the same shot of, which totally could have been edited together. So we don't have anything solid as far as this waiting room situation. So I have no idea. I don't think Jennie was there. I think this is just another fraudulent photo. And I saw in some of the comments that people were saying that they think that Hybe and YG have not commented yet, because Hybe is trying to sue the leaker, because this is an international person, and YG contacted Hybe to not say anything before Blackpink's comeback, because they don't want anything to jeopardize that. So we'll have to wait and see if there's some kind of official statement that gets released now that Blackpink's album has been released. So feel free to clear this up and tell us what's going on, because I mean, hopefully this is over, but if they need to clear it up, I hope that they do. But I don't know if this is just what I want to believe, but this is the scenario that is most logical to me, that YG was working with the leaker. The leaker released edited photos and videos to make it look like Jennie and V are dating for the purpose of publicity for Jennie for Blackpink's album release. And YG is hiding the fact that it knows who the leaker is, so that Hybe will go along with their plan and doesn't sue them for exploiting V for YG's benefit. I just think this whole situation is pretty silly, pretty ridiculous. Hopefully, if YG is behind the whole thing, then I hope they get found out. But that part of it is just my speculation. And hopefully we find out the truth very soon. But, I'm not sure what it means that V went to Blackpink's release party, because we don't know if that even happened. But you would think if they are trying to not call attention to their supposed dating, like, why would he go to a Blackpink party? So it's just funny how, okay, YG, why would you invite him with all of this happening? So I don't know. I just find that the timing of it is all very suspicious, and just the fact that we know a lot of these photos are fake now, it calls into question this entire narrative. So hopefully you guys can judge for yourself, and I'm hoping we hear the truth at some point. I have faith in Hybe. They will find out what's going on. I watched the Elvis movie recently, the movie by Baz Luhrmann starring Austin Butler and Tom Hanks. And it was a great movie. I recommend you check it out. Most of you probably don't know too much about Elvis, since that's from an older generation. It's kind of before my time too, but I was aware, Elvis is known to be this huge artist and has, tons of number one hits that people love to sing at karaoke, especially older people. But so if you watch the movie, the star of it, who's playing Elvis, Austin Butler, he did a phenomenal job. He talks and acts exactly like Elvis. And if you look at YouTube videos that have like side by side comparison with like the real moments from Elvis's performances, it looks so accurate. So I think he really captured the essence of Elvis and definitely deserves an Oscar for this. And the actress they cast for Priscilla, she looks very close to the real Priscilla, so I think they did a great job with the casting there. I better not see Tom Hanks nominated for an Oscar, though, because that would be a joke. And if you see the movie and see interviews with the real Colonel Parker, so Tom Hanks is playing Colonel Parker, who was Elvis's manager his whole career. And Tom Hanks, he sounds nothing like the real guy. And, you know, Colonel Parker, he was Dutch, but he didn't have this exaggerated Dutch accent like Tom Hanks is playing him as. So he better not just get like an automatic Oscar nomination. That would be pretty unfair. I'm sure there's like way more, better acting performances out there in movies this year. But the visual style is really good. It's like, if you watch a Baz Luhrmann movie, it's always very colorful and very dynamic and, really catches your eye. So it's definitely like that. And while watching this movie, I did have some realization that I think you guys can appreciate. And if you're a K-pop fan or BTS Army, I think we are in a unique position to see and appreciate the journey that Elvis went through and how it's very parallel to K-pop. And, make sure you watch the movie and see if you agree or not. But what happened with Elvis is what happens to a lot of boy bands and younger artists. It's like a shady manager or somebody takes advantage of the artists and kind of puts them in this impossible to get out of contract and kind of controls everything they do. And you see this in the movie, like Colonel Parker, he was pretty greedy and made some questionable career choices. He made Elvis, he didn't make Elvis do things, but it's like he got Elvis to do only certain things which benefited Colonel Parker the most. Like Elvis was successful, but he could have been even bigger if it wasn't for the decisions that Colonel Parker made. But, this is a movie, so maybe they exaggerated some things. And I think in real life, the people that knew Elvis, they didn't think like Colonel Parker was like super evil. It's just like he could have made better decisions to help Elvis's career if he had his interests in mind more than his own. But, Colonel Parker, he kind of took a lot of Elvis's profits, like a huge percentage of them, like 50% or something. It's like, okay, you're barely doing anything. You're just signing your name on things for Elvis, but you're taking like that much money. It's like, that's absurd. That's really taking advantage. And I saw in some like real videos that they were trying to say like, oh, Elvis kind of had his own thoughts. He was more headstrong than they depicted. He wasn't just like trapped and like following whatever Colonel Parker did. So, maybe there wasn't 100% like that. And they made it look like, okay, Colonel Parker made him get addicted to drugs because he was forcing him to perform like so many nights in a row with no breaks. But in reality, I think it was that Elvis had a lot of chronic health problems. Like he had genetic problems from his family that they had, and that was causing a lot of his issues. And he kind of needed prescription drugs for pain relief. And it wasn't like all the drugs that he had to take, it wasn't just to uppers and downers for performing and for sleeping. It was like partially related to the health problems that he had. So, I think the movie kind of exaggerated that part of it, but I think from the aspect of, you have very powerful label or managers that control like almost every part of a performer's life. I think Elvis had that in common with K-pop idols. And a couple other moments in the movie that really reminded me of K-pop were Elvis was just starting out and he kind of had a very like over the top kind of style. He had like a lot of different colors and like different cuts of outfits, like different than other people of that time. But people would say that he looked gay because of his outfits and like the makeup and his hair. So I think K-pop idols get that a lot too. It's like, oh, they look like girls. Like that's like one of the top things that is super annoying when people say that about K-pop idols, the male idols. Like, oh, they look gay or they look like women. It's like that's such a stupid comment. It's like every performer wears makeup. Every performer has their unique style. It's not automatically like, oh, they look like women. It's like, they don't even look like women. Like, look at BTS. Like, none of them looks like women. It's ridiculous. And so Elvis, he was like super talented at a young age and he had a unique style. I think that's very similar to BTS because they started very young. They're like 7 very talented people and they were different than everything else that was out there. And so Elvis, I don't know if you know this, but he doesn't have black hair. He's not born with black hair. He dyed it all the time because he thought it looked better. And so I think that's another thing he has in common with K-pop is like there's always like, you know, decisions made as far as hair colors and what works and what's different. So I don't think it was that common for people to dye their hair continuously back then. But, you know, Elvis was doing that. And he had very unique dance moves that were different from other people. I think that's something that K-pop does very well. They always have choreo. They always have great dancing. And women loved his performances. I think a huge part of Elvis's fan base was women. I think men and women liked Elvis, but it seemed like women, you know, had a lot of the enthusiasm. And it was because of, you know, his dancing, his like sex appeal. And I think that's the same thing with the K-pop boy bands, is that women really like their dancing, really like how they look. So I think there's that element to it. And another thing with Elvis's music, we kind of, I don't know if you just generally know about Elvis, but you know that he is associated with rock and roll. And you know, the basis of rock and roll, you have to like look at the history or whatever. I'm not like a music historian or anything, but you know, the basis of rock and roll, a lot of it is like blues and gospel and kind of like country as well. Elvis is definitely a country guy, but a lot of his music was black influenced. And that's very similar with K-pop too, because a lot of the rap, a lot of the hip hop portion of it is inspired by black culture, black musicians, black artists. And I think similar thing with Elvis. And he actually grew up in a neighborhood that was majority black. So he went to, you know, church performances, gospel performances. He grew up amongst a black neighborhood. And so, of course, his music is going to be very influenced by that. And similar thing to anyone today, if you know Eminem and his upbringing, very similar. You know, he's white, but he was very influenced by rap based on where he grew up and the music. And, you know, another thing that Elvis, Eminem, K-pop idols get is like, oh, you guys are just culturally appropriating. You're stealing black culture. And it's like, it's really not. It's like they grew up in this too. How is that stealing if that's your influence? That's what you grew up with. It's same exact thing. This is the influences you have because that's what you grew up with. And I think that's totally fair. That's totally valid. And I don't see culture as being like in a box. Like, okay, you're white. You don't get to be influenced by black artists. It's like, no, you're just influenced by whatever you're influenced by. You can't control like what you hear and what you see. So I think you've seen the history of this podcast, but we are very anti calling everything cultural appropriation, which I think barely exists. Like it hardly ever is a legit attack. But yeah, Elvis, he got that a lot at the time. And, you know, maybe even now in the woke era, people are like, he stole he stole black culture, he's stealing black music. And it's like, no, he grew up with that. That was his influence. No one can help that, what they grew up with. And I think it's totally fair. And just because he got super famous with his music, that doesn't make it like he's an evil person for being influenced by black music. Another thing is that Elvis, he did not write his songs. At least, his biggest songs, I looked up the credits. It seems like he was not a songwriter on any of them. And he seems to just work with songwriters and they write it, and he doesn't get any credits for that. I don't know if that was his choice or he just didn't realize, that's where a lot of the money is having the songwriting credits. But, that's like a lot of K-pop idols. They don't have that. They don't get that credit because either they're not working on their songs or they're not, given the credit on there. I think that is different with BTS because they're one of the few groups that does have a lot of input in their songwriting and they get the credits that they get for, the songs they've written. So I think that's great. But yeah, there's a lot of K-pop groups out there that they're either not writing songs or they're not being given the credit for their songs. And Elvis, he did not own any of his masters. So if you know the whole story with Taylor Swift and trying to purchase her masters, this same situation happened with Elvis. He didn't own it, so that's just how it was back then. Just the record label would own your masters. And I think if you're an artist starting out today, you definitely want to look at that and see, is there any way that you can gain control of it or own your own masters even? That's definitely something that's evolving now, thanks to Taylor Swift and Prince and other artists who brought up this very important issue that, if artists are writing songs, they should have the chance to own their masters, or at least, be involved in that and not have just other random people controlling all of that. But Elvis did have his own publishing company, so he had publishing rights, and that's at least a major asset for Elvis and now his estate, that they have that. I mean, the music industry is so complicated. It's there's rights to this, rights to that, masters, there's performing, there's touring. Yeah, that was another thing, is that the Colonel Parker decided that, Elvis, you don't need to tour that much. You don't need to go to other countries to perform, because he didn't want him to go because possibly he didn't have a passport or he would get in trouble. Colonel Parker would for going abroad, so he just prevented Elvis from doing it. But the problem with that is, we all know touring to other countries is a huge source of revenue for musicians. So that really held Elvis back, the fact that he couldn't go to other countries to perform and collect all that ticket money. That he could have made so much more money if he was able to. So that's pretty sad that he was prevented from being at his full potential. So, I mean, I find that to be, I don't know if that's similar to K-pop, but I think that they definitely make a lot of money with their world tours. And that's why, any K-pop group who makes it big enough, they definitely try to go to other countries and make money for everybody. But at least, they're not taken advantage of like this. It's your label makes money, you make money, touring is good for everybody. Finally, the other thing I noticed about Elvis is that the one good thing that Colonel Parker came up with was the idea of merch. And I think this was a very new idea back then. The fact that you just sell a lot of stuff that has Elvis's name or his image on it, or that, the name of his song or album, all of that products that were sold at concerts, that they sold to people, to fans, to Elvis fans. That was a very new idea, and I think it made them a lot of money, just to Elvis merch. I mean, just imagine, he had millions of fans, so if they're all buying merch, if they're all buying albums, that's a lot of money right there. And I think K-pop really uses that idea to the max. There's merch for everything. There's clothes, there's records, there's objects, they've expanded even beyond just items. they've created like intellectual property, like BT21 and, all these other creative properties that they can build a whole another set of merch around. So I think K-pop really took that idea and like completely ran off with it. But, merch is like a huge part of any K-pop group's revenue. And there's always merch. There's always new merch. There's always stuff to buy. So I think if you watch this movie, it's a good movie. It's worth your time. But I think you also can see that these connections that I noticed between K-pop and Elvis, and I think you guys can appreciate it. So let me know if you agree. You can listen to BTS Happy Hour on Samsung Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, or visit btshappyhour.com. If you like the show, please take a moment to rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Weverse. Check out the merch store with BTS-themed tees, hoodies, and more, linked in the description, as well as on the BTS Happy Hour Facebook page. Until next time, this has been the BTS Happy Hour. Thanks for listening, and remember, make every hour a happy one.